Can you guys hear me? Anybody? Ah, thank you, God. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know why that happened. One time I accidentally ended the live and then it was gone and I couldn't get back in at all. So I'm so grateful. Phew. Okay, we just take a breath for a second. Oh my goodness. Okay. 1 sec. Oh my gosh. Phew. Hey guys, how are you? I hope everyone's doing well. Let me just take a sip of my tea. So I'm really happy to be with you. Sorry about that. But all is well. All is fine. So I'm going to start with singing my invocation, and then we'll go into our theme. For those of you who've come to my live sessions before, the light inside is kind of a generic title that I use when I just want to be open to seeing what flows in the moment, and because I think everything leads back to the light inside. So today I'm going to talk about some things that have been on my mind and heart, and but there's no set theme, so we'll just go together spontaneously wherever we go. So thank you for being here. If you have never met me before, I don't know what I am. I'm a seeker, I'm a soul, I'm a singer, a lover of life, and I play the harmonium and I sing mantras. So I always start my sessions singing an invocation. That way we can call in the blessings and all the good energy for our time together. So I'm going to start that now. You're a seeker of awe. I love that. I am too. There's nothing you need to do right now except just relax, and you know you've made the choice to be here, so just allow yourself to fully be here. Just be open, be receptive, and try to allow your energy to be present with you, your mind and body to be together. sar samudra tara naukai tabiyam guru bhakti davyam vairagya samranjata pujanapyam namo namah Shri Guru Padukapyam namo namah Shri Guru Padukapyam namo namah Shri Guru Padukapyam namo 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 Let's take 3 breaths together. We'll just breathe in and just hold for a moment. And when you exhale, just imagine that you're exhaling through your whole body. You're just releasing and clearing anything that you don't wish to move forward with. Other people's energies and thoughts, the energy of the collective, and anything inside you that may be weighing on you. Just use your imagination to imagine letting all of that go. Now take a breath. Hold. And then exhale through your whole body. And again, inhale in your own time. Hold. And then exhale everywhere. One last time. Breathe in. Hold. And exhale through your whole body, through all the pores. Feel that you're sitting in your own energy field, just with yourself. Allow your body to really sink into whatever place you're in and find yourself present in the space. Just see if you can just do a very gentle scan of your body and just sending calm and ease through your whole body. May we all be receptive and approach this time together with a beginner's mind and heart. May we be open to whatever blessings we may need at this time. They may not come in the form we imagine they should, so let us just be open to see how they want to arrive. Let's have the permission of our own mind to receive healing, to receive peace in our body, mind, and heart. The only thing that stands in the way of that is our own mind. So let's be open and call in all the energies of love and compassion, forgiveness, and trust to be with us today. May all of our hearts be connected wherever we may be in physical space, and may our inquiry and journey be of benefit to the greater whole. Thank you. So I hope you're all doing as well as can be. I don't think I slept much last night. I was thinking a lot about this session, and I was just in a tumultuous sort of state, just feeling everything going on in the world, and I'm sure many of us can relate to that. There's just a very tumultuous energy and like a friction and a chaos. It's sort of, I don't know, I just feel it. And so I was just sort of buzzing all night thinking about that and thinking about this live session, and I just sharing that with you because I'm just aware that I feel slightly vulnerable because of that. So let me just think for a minute. So I would say these are, pretty challenging times on Earth. And not just because of the US election that just happened, that has created intense polarization and fear and anger and a whole range of emotions for many people from all sides. And but also just the climate on Earth is hot, right? Our world is getting hotter, and you can really feel the heat, not only just in the weather, but in people's minds. Many people's minds are heating up. Our minds are on fire, with so many thoughts, trying to figure out how to move about in this new world that is unfolding. And so I wanted to start by talking to you a little bit about a beautiful and I think very helpful teaching from the Hindu tradition that is very relevant for these times, that I thought would be valuable to just contemplate together. And you may know about this, and I have shared about this before for those of you who've come to other live sessions I've done. But in the Hindu tradition, there's a teaching about the yugas. Yuga is spelled Y-U-G-A. A yuga essentially means an age of time or a cycle of time, an epoch of time. And in the Hindu tradition, they speak about 4 yugas. And these yugas, these ages of time, are cyclic. So they repeat themselves over and over again into infinity, essentially. And it's fascinating. There's a lot of different people and scholars and mystics or whatever who say different things about how long each yuga lasts. For our purposes, I don't really think we need to get down to the nitty-gritty about it. I think it's more just looking at this teaching as a metaphor and see what it may have to offer us at this time in our lives and in the world. So the yugas, as I said, are 4 ages of time, and they have different names: the Satya Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. You can totally look all this up after the session. There's tons of stuff out there. If you just type in the yugas, you'll find loads of things about it. I'm just giving us a little snapshot. So in this cosmology, the Satya Yuga is the longest yuga, and as they go, they get shorter and shorter. But still, a length of time, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of years. So our view of time as these little, humans from our small vantage point, hundreds of thousands of years seems incomprehensible. But we're talking about looking from way up above, looking down, with perspective. So the Satya Yuga, as it's explained, is the first age in this cycle, and it's considered the golden age. You don't have to subscribe to this. You don't have to believe this. I just invite you to keep an open mind about it, just to see if it resonates with you. It's not really necessarily literal. So just wanted to say that. So the Satya Yuga was considered a golden age, right? This is the first cycle. And the Satya Yuga, Satya means truth. And this golden age was considered a time when people were golden, essentially. People were living in harmony. People were living at peace with one another. The weather was harmonious, right? People communicated telepathically. If you could imagine, people's auras were full of gold, right? Full of light. People were virtuous. They wished goodness to one another, and they lived at ease and oneness with the environment. It's what you would imagine a golden age would be. Maybe it's different for everybody, but I think about it that it's a time of real integrity and goodness and harmony in people's hearts and in nature and everything. So that is the golden age. It lasted however many hundreds of thousands of years. As that age came to a close, it moved into the next age, which was called the Treta Yuga. And it said in the Treta Yuga, that goodness, that harmony of the golden age diminished by like a quarter. So this was the silver age. And in this age, there was still a lot of goodness, peace, love, harmony, virtue in the world between people. But there was just a little something that was coming in that was not that, right? You could imagine emperors were coming. Maybe people were getting just a little seeds of selfishness inside of them. Maybe the weather patterns were changing just a tiny bit, things like that. So a quarter of that virtue and goodness was diminished. But it was still 3/4 harmonious. This is the Treta Yuga, and the Treta Yuga was the time that Ram was said to be alive. Ram is the very well-known, beautiful, beloved sage from India, the star of the Ramayana, and he was an embodiment of Dharma and virtue. And I love to chant the name Ram. It's beautiful to chant. I have an album called The Ram Sessions. He was both a person as well as really a principle. He represents the love and the divinity that lives in our hearts. That's just one name for that love. So after the Treta Yuga, as that wound down, we moved into the Dwapara Yuga. The Dwapara Yuga was a time when, as you can imagine, that quarter bit of, diminishment of goodness became bigger. And so there was a time where there was half and half, right? 50% goodness, 50% not goodness. So you could imagine there were more wars. People were maybe more motivated by greed and selfishness and things like that. And it's during these times that great luminaries were come to the earth in this tradition, in this cosmology, to come and to remind humanity, to show people the path of truth and love and goodness and forgiveness and all the things that the saints from all traditions show us. So when the Dwapara Yuga concluded, we moved into the Kali Yuga, which many people say is the era that we're in right now. So the Dwapara Yuga was the Bronze Age. This Kali Yuga is the Iron Age. And the Kali Yuga is often interpreted as the Dark Age of materialism. It sounds very ominous, but really all we have to do is look around and see what's going on, right? So in the Kali Yuga, there's 3/4 of a lack of harmony and virtue. It's like an age of corruption. It's an age where people are not motivated by truth, are not motivated by love and unity. It's a time of divisiveness, a time of, pillaging the earth, right? It says in the scriptures, right? Like the weather patterns are changing and people are not living as long, right? One piece I read years ago talked about how just metaphorically speaking, in the Satya Yuga, people lived to be 100,000 years. And they were tall. Supposedly they were like 31 feet tall or something. In the Treta Yuga, they lived to be 10,000 years. The Dwapara Yuga, 1,000 years. And the Kali Yuga, 100 years. So anyway, make with that whatever you will. In the Kali Yuga, it's basically a time when that little golden light, that golden goodness, that virtue, where I see you, I want the best for you, I love you, I want to live in harmony with nature, I want to care for nature, I want to care for, steward the planet, steward this world, and I'm aware of energy, right? The Kali Yuga is considered to be a very materialistic time when people have forgotten the power of consciousness and the power of energy, right? If you can imagine in the Satya Yuga, people were living in a very subtle reality, right? They could know each other's thoughts. They could just communicate through the heart, communicate telepathically. Now we've lost a lot of our reverence for that, thinking that our happiness is going to come from outside. And there's so much, pitting against each other and greed and vying for power and competition and all of these things. So whether you agree with or believe in this notion of the yugas or this Kali Yuga, it doesn't really matter, because if we just look at our world right now, we can really see that there is a lot of that going on. It's not a mystery. It's not something that I'm making up, but it's something that any of us can look and read the news and just see what's happening in the world, and we see, what kind of values are prevailing in the world. And it's very painful and very sad a lot of times for those who wish to live in more harmony and peace, to witness, the degradation of our planet, the pillaging of our planet, the injustices that are happening all around the world, the wars, all of these things. But what's very interesting is that, as difficult as it is to look that in the eye and see, okay, this is the Kali Yuga, this is what's supposed to be happening, the sages actually taught that the Kali Yuga is the most potent time for us to awaken, because the pressure of this time is like pressing us to help us come back inside, to find that light inside. The Kali Yuga is actually a time when we can really so-called accelerate our awakening journey because of the forces of the pressure of what we're experiencing and seeing around us. When you don't like what you're seeing outside, when it's so painful, on some level you're forced, really. It's a choice always, but we're forced to turn inside to find that which we're seeking on the outside if we're not finding it there. So this period of time is considered to be very important for that. And chanting, the practice of chanting, which is something that I feel very connected to, is supposed to be a very powerful medicine for this specific time of the Kali Yuga. Because it's said that in the Kali Yuga, the vibrations are very dense, right? You can imagine in a golden age, people's thoughts were pure, so to speak, right? People didn't have violent thoughts. There was none of that hatefulness or that sort of energy of fear constantly being put out into the world. So you could imagine that the vibrations on Earth had like a sattvic quality, like a pure quality to them. So when the atmosphere, right, our thoughts are things and they affect the atmosphere, not just our own being, they affect the environment. That's why the mamos, who are the shamans from Colombia that I've studied with years ago, talked about the importance of being mindful of our thoughts and emotions, because they affect the earth and they affect the atmosphere. That's another conversation. But because, what was I just saying? Oh yeah, because the vibrations were so pure, it was easy during that time for people to just go deep into meditation, because the energy was conducive to that. But now, if we think about the thoughts that people are having all the time, this collective sort of waves of fear and aggression and all these things that are being put out, the vibrations have like a density to them, So it's said that it's harder to, go to a Himalayan cave. They're all like rented out on Airbnb anyway. But to find a Himalayan cave or a place where you can just kind of go inside is not as easy in these times. And we need practices that help us to kind of cut through the density of the vibrations that are happening in the atmosphere. And so since everything is vibration and sound is a vibration, and mantras in particular are very pure vibrational sounds, they can actually help us to pierce through the density of the vibrations of these times, to quiet our minds down so that we can, access the peace that's deep within us. You may have noticed, and I think it's easy to notice, that when your energy and your attention is going external all the time, that if you just sit down to meditate, chances are you probably don't just like drop into a deep state of, samadhi and just oneness with all of creation. It takes practice to draw our energy inwards when we're just constantly giving it out all the time. So that's why, we need to do things, and we need to be mindful of what this age is. Whether you call it the Kali Yuga, whether you believe that or not, we're all impacted by it. We're all impacted by it because the collective thoughts and the vibrations that are being generated affect all of us. But on the flip side, everything always has, right, different two sides, or more than two. We can also impact the atmosphere and the collective through our positive energy, through our love, through the goodness that we cultivate, through the thoughts that we have that are loving, right? These are also antidotes to the prevailing energies that we are feeling, that many people are feeling. So we have agency. And I think that that's really important to remember, that even if we may find ourselves living in these times that are, have that dark quality of materialism and greed and selfishness and competition, we are free to be able to choose the way that we engage with that and the way that we perceive that. We can choose to perceive all of that as something that is here to help us on our path. We can choose to see all of that as the compost that we're going to use to create a beautiful garden inside of ourselves so that we can share the fruits and the vegetables with the rest of the world. No matter what happens on the outside, we always have that choice. And if you read any scripture from any spiritual tradition, pretty much all saints and masters lived during times of great adversity. Read the Quran, read the Bible, read the Mahabharata. People were not just sitting around, in bliss, drinking kombucha and getting enlightened. They were facing great trials, right? Like spending, years in the desert, struggling with, enemies doing this and meeting great suffering. And these are the stories, these are the epics that we find where these great luminaries are showing us the path of how we can work with adversity and challenges on the outside to help us blossom on the inside. So I think that's good to remember, because when we want to awaken from suffering, we can't do it under the expectation that we have to wait for the conditions to be perfect for that, because it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen in this world where everything is changing all the time, where we can't control what's happening on the outside as much as we may want to. We can't control the world. So if we sit and wait thinking I'm only going to, wake up and do my work when everything is calm and fine, we will never do it. The time to work on our consciousness and to transform ourselves is now, always, whatever may be happening on the outside. Because we can't control. There are so few things that we can control. We want to control this or that, the outcome of this election, or what's happening with this or what's happening with that, but yet we can't even control our own minds. It's fascinating when you think about it, how much we as human beings want to be in control and are resistant to things that happen because they don't go along with what we think should be happening or what we want to happen. And yet here we are, the only thing we really have control over is our own mind, and most of us don't have that control. Last night as I was, lying awake, thinking about this live session, just thinking about life and, I don't know, all the stuff, I was just lying there like, all right, let me just take one breath, like one breath. I gotta just be here. I could barely do it last night. And I realized I have no control over my mind. Here I am worrying, thinking about this and that. This outcome happened. This didn't happen the way I wanted. I don't like this. I don't want like that. And I don't want that. And I want to try to control it. I want to change it. And it's completely out of my control. But the one thing that I do have control over, I'm not able to have that self-mastery. So that was a really interesting realization to just notice that and to reflect on that. Because it's very easy, to see things that we don't like and to want to change them. But there are times that things are happening that are beyond our control. And if we spend all of our time and energy resisting what is, that is energy that we could be using for our own journey of awakening, for our own path of being of service to the world, to do something constructive and creative with that energy. When we spend all of our time looking outside, resisting, hating, judging, all of that, then we just deplete ourselves. And there's very little left. Of course, we're all going to have reactions to different things in different ways on Earth with a variety of things, because we live in this opinion factory. And those of us, who have longing for peace on Earth, if we see things that are not in alignment with what we think peace is, are going to have a reaction to that. Just like Jesus did, just like Rama did, just like Krishna did, just like Muhammad did, just like Moses did, just like all the great beings did. But when we spend our time, what I've discovered for myself is, if I spend all my time fretting over things that I can't change and I have nothing left for myself and nothing left for anybody, then I'm not really being helpful in any way. I'm just deepening that feeling of separation. If the sky is blue, but you keep looking at it and saying, it shouldn't be blue, it should be yellow, but it's blue. But you just keep thinking, it shouldn't be blue, it's got to be yellow, it has to be yellow. I'm not going to accept that it's blue. It needs to be yellow, but it just isn't yellow, it's blue. So do you spend our whole life trying to make what is something that it isn't? Or do we just say, okay, I got to accept it. I want it to be yellow, but it's blue. So how can I work with this blue sky for my benefit and for the benefit of others? It's just a really good question to ask. So I'm just sharing with you things that I'm thinking about right now. You know, as always, you can just like throw out anything I say. There may not be any value for you. I'm just having an honest conversation with you. But what I wanted to share with you about is that, you know, these times of adversity are not new. If we talk about the Kali Yuga, we can imagine that this type of division and corruption, you know, has been going on for a long time. And there have always been great beings and people like all of us who want truth and love and goodness in the world and are working towards that and wanting to create a beautiful society of people with open hearts. You know, there's always been both of it because this is the world of duality here. What's so interesting is that the notion of like having to wait until the conditions are perfect is such I just think is an interesting thing, because even though we may know it intellectually that it's not going to happen, somewhere inside our mind can't help like waiting for that, right? Like when everything's done and cooked and perfect and ironed, then I will ... I will get this job, I will do this thing, I will meet this person, I will do this. And we put these conditions on life, and we spend our lives sort of waiting and twiddling our thumbs for some moment or time that just doesn't arrive. So I was thinking about the Bhagavad Gita, this gorgeous book that I'm sure many of you know. This is one translation, there's so many of them. And I love this book. It was written a long time ago, sometime around the 5th century BCE, I think. And this is a scripture that is part of a larger scripture, the Mahabharata. And the Bhagavad Gita, it means like the song of the Lord or the song of God. And I'm not going to go too deeply into this book right now, but I wanted to share a few things that I think are so relevant and interesting. So this scripture, which is thousands of years old, has wisdom that is completely timeless. This is the story of Arjuna, who is a warrior, and his conversation with Krishna, with the god Krishna. And the entire book takes place on a battlefield, which is just something to meditate upon. It doesn't take place in a pristine ashram. It doesn't take place in a beautiful palace. It doesn't take place, you know, in any sort of calm and beautiful environment. This is taking place on a battlefield, which in some ways represents not only the external sort of battlefield, but also our own mind, right? Which is constantly coming towards us, right? With these negative thoughts and patterns that we have. It's sort of a battlefield on a certain way. And so this scripture takes place on a battlefield. And what happens basically in this book, essentially, take this incredible scripture and like put it in a little sesame seed. Arjuna is a warrior, and he is on this battlefield, and it is his job to fight. But when he's on the battlefield, he sees that the opposite side are people that he loves, like friends and family members, and he's distraught because he thinks, how can I fight like my kinsmen? I don't want to do that. And the whole book is basically a conversation that he has with Krishna about what it means, how to do that, what is the soul or the self, you know, what is dharma or duty, and, you know, basically, how do we live? It's essentially an instruction manual for life. And there's many beautiful, beautiful teachings in this book, but there are a few that I think are very pertinent for these times. One thing that Krishna teaches Arjuna is about the principle and the concept of dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, dharma, which is a beautiful word in Sanskrit that, you know, if you were to look it up in a Sanskrit dictionary, you would find literally hundreds of explanations for what it means. It means many, many different things. It means duty. It means law. It means that which supports and upholds the cosmic order. It means a lot of different things. But essentially, dharma is what maintains the order, which is known as Rita, R-T-A in Sanskrit. Rita is the cosmic order. Dharma is that which upholds that. So if you can imagine in the Satya Yuga, people were really living in accordance with dharma. And people were following their truth and living in a harmonious way. So dharma was upheld But as the yugas progressed, this dharma began to decline. And in the Kali Yuga, it's considered a time when people are really not adhering to dharma. And therefore, since we're not, the sort of the order, the cosmic order is being a little bit disrupted because people are not following in their dharma, right? So we see these changing weather patterns. We see all these different things happening. We see greed and misunderstandings between people and all of that. But the teaching of dharma is so very important and beautiful, because basically what Krishna says to him is that you may not want to do this and you may have feelings about doing this, but it is your dharma to be a warrior. It is your dharma to do this. And so what you need to do, what the teaching is you need to do your duty, do what you're here to do with detachment from the fruits of what you're doing. You need to do it knowing that you are not the doer, because ultimately what Krishna is teaching him is that there is within every being an imperishable self, something that is not identified with this or that. And so what all of us are here to do is to, quote, do our dharma and also recognize that we are not that. So we're here to share who we are with the world, to be who we are and give what we have to give while also not identifying with that. It's very difficult. That's why what Krishna is talking about is called karma yoga. It's the path of selfless action, of realizing that we do everything that we do, but we don't get attachment to the results of what we're doing. And each person we all have our own unique dharma, right? It's called a Svadharma, your own inherent dharma. So my dharma is going to look different from yours, right? Dharma is also sometimes thought about as like the nature of something, right? So the dharma of fire is to burn. The dharma of water is to be wet. The dharma of the sun is to shine. The dharma of the moon is to do what it does, right? So everything is different. Everything has its own unique essence and way of expressing itself, and that is its nature. And if we try to take on somebody else's dharma, it doesn't work, because we're here to be ourselves and to do our unique thing. And part of the problem in this sort of social media era is people are constantly looking and comparing and competing, and we lose sense of what our true dharma is, because we're always looking out, seeing what is everybody else's dharma? What is everybody else doing? So I want to read you something, because this is something that Krishna talks about in here. And I think it's just a beautiful thing to think about. He says, where is this? Here it is. It is better to strive in one's own dharma than to succeed in the dharma of another. Nothing is ever lost in following one's own dharma, but competition in another's dharma breeds fear and insecurity. Such a beautiful teaching, and so true. Why does that even matter in these times? It matters because each one of us is here for a purpose, and each one of us matters, and each one of us has a unique medicine, a unique gift, an art that we have to give to the world. Maybe your dharma is being a mother. Maybe your dharma is being a plumber. Maybe your dharma is being whatever this person is, whatever I'm doing. You know, maybe your dharma is to be a social worker or to be a waiter, whatever it may be. The point is, we all have a way that life and the essence of life wants to express itself through us. And we need to do those roles while also recognizing that we are not those things, that we are not attached and we're not identified with that role. It's such an important teaching, I think, especially today, because it's very easy. Part of what I think creates so much division in society and between people is this incredible identification that we have with, this is myself, this is my thing, right? I know what's right. You know, I'm woke, I'm conscious, I'm spiritual, I'm green, I'm right, I'm this, I'm that, and we cling to that. And whatever identity we may have about ourselves, the way we identify with ourselves, with who we're doing, with what we're doing, and how we see ourselves, we grab hold of that, and that creates this sort of aura of this energy of separation between people. And so I think this teaching is very important, because whatever you may think about the state of the world, whatever you may think about the election as just one example, what really matters is not what everyone else and everything else is doing. What matters is looking at what are you here to do? What do you have agency over? If we lose all of our power and energy, blaming, shaming, judging, hating, then there's nothing left, no energy left to do our dharma. You know, every person does what they do because they think it's going to make them happy. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, nothing, you don't identify with anything. If you're a human being, you want to be happy. Everybody does. I don't know anybody on earth that would say, I really don't want to be happy. I really want to be unhappy. The desire for happiness is universal. It's just that we have different ways that we think we're going to get happy. We have different ideas about what that looks like. And those ideas don't just come out of nowhere. Those feelings and beliefs and ideas are a huge gestalt of all of our experiences from the time we're young, right? The beliefs that other people have sort of indoctrinated into us when we're like wet cement, right? Our media, our school systems, our religions, all of these things, they give us the filters that we have. And so when we do what we do it thinking that it's going to make us happy. So if we just immediately look at another person, we judge them because they've made a decision that we don't agree with, we're really reducing another person to something so tiny. And instead of trying to understand, we're just creating more and more separation. I think it's so important to understand that there is a universal desire to be happy. And when someone goes to the ballot box and they circle a person's name, they're not doing it thinking, I really want this person to be president because they're going to completely ruin my life. I can't wait for them to destroy the world and ruin my life. Nobody thinks that. When you vote for someone, you do it because you think they're going to help you. You think they're going to help the world. They're going to help life. Based on what your perception is, based on your background, based on what you know. So in that way, we're all the same. It's just we have different ideas about how to achieve that and what that looks like. And so it's so important, I think, I find for myself, it's important to have that perspective and to remember, that it's possible to find a center point, to be connected to my dharma, and to let life be and remain focused on what I'm here to do. What are the principles that are really important to me? Love, truth, justice, all of the things that I care about. If I expend all my energy judging, disliking, hating, all of this, people who don't agree with me, like I've said already so many times, and I don't have that energy to focus on my dharma. Whereas if I'm just one-pointed about that dharma, then that is the direction that I'm going to move, When you're driving on a highway and you want to get to a destination, if you keep getting off at different exits to look around, it's cool, it's fine, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get there. Whereas if you just go on the highway and you just go to your destination and you just know where you're going and you know what matters, you're on your way there. And it makes me think about these different saints and sages whose lives are so inspiring to me. I think of Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a teacher of mine for a very long time and still is my beloved teacher. I think of Amma. I think of Martin Luther King Jr. I think of just so many nonconformists, revolutionaries, humanitarians, people in the world, who they could hold a space of nonviolence in themselves. They could hold a space of not clinging and identifying with what they really believed in. And because of that, they were able to achieve such incredible things. It wasn't because they were sitting there saying, I can't believe the state of the world it's so horrible. Everything is crumbling. It's awful. I'm just miserable. I'm depressed. I'm just going to be crying all the time. If you go sit in the presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he laughs. He just laughs and laughs and laughs. But his whole life is about bringing peace and teachings of compassion to the world. When I've spent a lot of time with Thich Nhat Hanh, and Thich Nhat Hanh, he witnessed unbelievable atrocities in his country of Vietnam during the war. Terrible, terrible things. But yet when he started his monastery, what was he doing? He was teaching people how to take care of their suffering. He was teaching people how to breathe and smile and walk gently on the earth and to enjoy a cup of tea. He wasn't doing those things because he wasn't aware of the suffering and he wasn't affected by it. But he knew that what would really help people in the world to heal is to care for their suffering, to be able to see themselves with that love. And he, just like His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Amma or Martin Luther King, I'm bringing him up because I've been reading his book that I want to share something from, they were able to hold that center point or that place of equanimity where they didn't say, you know, I am a saint, I am doing good, I am creating humanitarian projects all over the world, I am doing this, I am doing that. They just lived in the flow of life, adhering to their principles of Dharma, and they never wavered from that. And their path it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal in the sense that there was no sense of doership. You know, I'm doing this thing. Give me a point, because I read this book and now I'm knowledgeable about, you know, how to handle these times, or I watched this TED Talk, or I did this thing, or I went and did that. So now I'm this or that. That, again, it creates that division. And so I think it's so important, especially in these times, to always be mindful of like our tendency towards self-righteousness, our tendency towards spiritual pride and superiority. It's hard to talk about these things, but it's so important and so true. You know, I find that I have to just keep checking myself all the time and just keep looking and watching. Where are my thoughts dividing and separating? Where am I doing that sort of dividing and conquering or thinking, I know what's best, I know the way? It's not about better or worse. You know, it's not about being the best. It's about knowing what I feel is my dharma, what I feel is most important in life. I think peace, harmony, truth, love, unity, those things are so important. And that is what I want to put my energy towards. And that is what Krishna is saying. He's saying, do your work to end suffering. Ram Dass had a great quote about that. He said something like, our work is to work towards ending suffering without being attached to whether suffering ends. We are all here to do our work in whatever way is true for us, to try to transform the suffering that we see, to try to bring more peace to the world without having any attachment to what that's going to look like, and without walking around depleting our energy, vilifying everyone and everything. Instead, just focus on that North Star of our Dharma without having that attachment and that identification. You know, I'm so great. Because that really trips us up. That really gets in our way. And I think the beauty of, you know, when we're triggered, right, of being like the masters that I've spent time around, like, you can't trigger them. There's nothing that would trigger them because they're not attached to this sense of self that they constantly have to sort of buffer and protect and manufacture and you know, prove to the world. There isn't that sense. And so there's nothing to trigger. It's like you're trying to stick something in space. Nothing sticks. It's just space. Whereas for us, we get triggered. But those triggers are the gifts. Those triggers are the path that help us to see, where am I misperceiving something, or what is this showing me about something that needs to be integrated in me, that needs healing, that needs love, that needs attention? Where is that trigger showing me that I'm derailing my focus on my energy instead of focusing on Dharma, instead of focusing on love, right? I'm focusing and giving all my energy towards what really bothers me, what really pisses me off, with what I don't agree with. I'm not talking about this in sort of a Pollyanna way that we're supposed to live never feeling our human emotions and not feeling angry and not feeling grief, of course, because those things are also fuel, right? Our anger can be churned into something creative that can be of benefit to the world. Our grief can connect us in our humanity. Everything has value. I'm just saying, on a certain level, recognizing like what is really our deepest longing and not allowing the world to constantly pull the threads of our heart away and unravel us so that we lose that. We have to remember the conditions are never always going to be perfect, but we have the agency over this mind, over our consciousness. We can always choose to work on that no matter what is happening on the outside. I just want to read you this, and then we're going to do a little singing. This is talking about the idea of not being attached to the fruits of our actions. The wise see that there is action in the midst of inaction, and inaction in the midst of action. Their consciousness is unified, and every act is done with complete awareness. The awakened sages call a person wise when all his undertakings are free from anxiety about results. All his selfish desires have been consumed in the fire of knowledge. The wise, ever satisfied, have abandoned all external supports. Their security is unaffected by the results of their action. Even while acting, they really do nothing at all. They live in freedom, who have gone beyond the dualities of life. Competing with no one, they are alike in success and failure, and content with whatever comes to them. They are free, without selfish attachments. Their minds are fixed in knowledge. They perform all work in the spirit of service, and their karma is dissolved. I know that's like sort of scriptural type language, but I think it's absolutely beautiful, the notion of being equal in mind with success and failure, content with whatever comes, knowing that nothing will waver them from their true purpose. When they know their dharma, right? The ones who are illuminating the path for us, beings like Martin Luther King Jr., who was so committed to nonviolence, who nothing wavered that for him. Likewise, Gandhi, he remains such an incredible inspiration because he was able to bring tremendous change to his country that was under colonial rule, not through force, through hatred. This book was his Bible. This book was his hugest inspiration. And he was able to do it by remaining steadfast with his principles and not letting his energy go this way and that, hating, judging. His energy went into the stream that it needed to go in, and that stream got deeper and stronger and more powerful so that it was able to bring incredible change to that country and to the world. So we all have those seeds inside of us. We all have that ability. And while it may not be easy to, do our work without attachment to the results, and why it may be so easy to identify with this or that, it's always good, I think, just to expose our mind to these other ideas and to these teachings to realize so many things are possible. It's natural to feel despondent. Well, I feel despondent a lot at some of the things that I'm witnessing, and I feel overwhelmed by grief about certain things that I'm witnessing. And when that happens, sometimes I just find myself here at my harmonium and I just sing. I try to just let it all go. I try to churn that pain into something that beautiful, like a sound that I could offer back that is coming from that place. It's not easy, but actually, to cultivate your joy, to cultivate what is your dharma, your gift, what brings you happiness, what feels like your true being is so important. I'll just tell you this short story that it's very short. A friend of mine who lives at Amma's ashram, Amma is my spiritual teacher. He's lived there for a while, and he asked her recently, after the election, he was really upset because he wasn't happy with the outcome. And so he asked her what to do. He said, I'm really upset. How can I be of service? What do I do? And Amma just said one word to him. She just said, happy. Happy. We might hear that and think, what? What are you talking about? I'm saying I'm distraught. You're telling me happy. But actually, that is the most powerful teaching. What I interpreted that as, and what he said as well, is that the teaching is that happiness is a choice. Happiness is a decision. And happiness, if we cultivate our inner happiness, we are naturally sharing the light of who we are with this world. We are sharing our love and our joy that overflows from us. Just like sitting in the presence of Thich Nhat Hanh was being in an ocean of peace. Even with all the difficult things happening in the world, I felt so much peace being with him, the simplicity of drinking tea and just breathing. But sitting in the presence of my teacher, Amma, She just sees a stream of humanity and witnessing suffering that is almost unimaginable to the ordinary person. She's embraced like 40 million people around the world and has seen tremendous suffering. She still is smiling and laughing and exuding joy and fully present in the moment. Yet she's helping millions of people in the world. Likewise, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is exiled from his country, has seen tremendous suffering, yet you just watch him talk. He's just laughing. He's so full of that lightness in his heart. So when we think that in order to achieve success, in peace on earth, that we have to be miserable and downtrodden, it may be something to question and contemplate. That maybe our own joy, our own happiness, and the love within us that we cultivate is itself an act of resistance against adharma, which is unrighteousness. Our joy, our love and happiness helps to reestablish righteousness in this world. I'm very inspired by that story of Amma, and I've been thinking about it a lot because it seems paradoxical in a way how to feel happy when it seems like everything is just deteriorating. But once again, our own mind, it's the only thing that we have control over, and most of us don't have that control. So why not fill our hearts and minds with positive energy, with love, with understanding, and instead of wasting every minute of our life angry and hating things that we don't agree with, to realize that actually what matters is dharma. This dictator, this fascist, this person, that they're doing their dharma. It's this person's dharma to, do what he's doing. It's that person's dharma to do what she's doing. It's this person's dharma to do what he's doing. And we may not agree with their dharma, but you know what? Maybe their dharma that looks terrible to our eyes is actually what is supposed to help us push more deeply into our dharma. There have always been people through time who have been disruptors, who have brought, bad energy to the world, like Ravana. If you read the Ramayana, he was, not the greatest guy. He did a lot of things that created chaos on earth. But that energy of that tyrant energy, that dharma can be useful to help us connect to our dharma. So nothing is ever wasted. We can take everything and use it, churn it, to create art out of it, to create light where there may be darkness. So I'm just rambling on here. I think I've talked enough for the moment. Let's chant. Just quieting my mind for a second. Let's chant to Ganesh. Ganesh is the remover of obstacles, and he is often propitiated at the beginning of anything. Beginning of, when you buy a house, you move into a house, you call on Ganesh, you start a project, you call on Ganesh, you get married, you call on Ganesh. He removes the obstacles. And as I've said before, what I just think is such an important teaching is that sometimes Ganesh places obstacles on our path. We're praying, please remove the obstacles. And we're going along and suddenly we find that there's an obstacle there. We may think like, wait, I thought you were supposed to remove obstacles, but now there's more obstacles. Actually, what looks like an obstacle may be what is redirecting us towards what is true for us. And that is such a good teaching, I think, for these times. What we see as an obstacle, as an impasse, as a problem, that may be something that is helping each of us to take a turn in our life towards something more true. We don't know. So Ganesh is a good teacher for that. So let's chant together the mantra. I think it'd be nice to do something where we can all chant together. And a beautiful mantra for Ganesh is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. If somebody knows it, maybe you could write it in the chat. In the in the chat. Thank you, Ellen. Om Gam, G-A-M. Gam is the seed syllable for Ganesh. A seed, a bija, a seed contains the full power of something, right? The tree is contained in the seed. So Om Gam is calling upon that full power and energy in that seed form of Ganesh. And thank you so much. Ganapataye is another name for Ganesh. He has many different names. And Namaha is like namaste. to honor, to bow down, like saying like salutations to. So we honor Ganesh. We honor the remover of obstacles. And this is a mantra that you can chant for any obstacles in your own life, in your own mind, right? Question so many people feel now is like, how do I navigate these times? How do we navigate these times of uncertainty? What the world is, everything is changing, and change is the nature of life. So please remove the obstacles. Help me see clearly. Help me know what is my dharma. How am I here to serve? What matters? How can I return to that connection to my source inside and not allow myself to get completely dispersed and lost in the outside world? So we're going to just chant this all together. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. We'll just keep doing it like that. Normally I would chant it on a mala, but I'm not going to do that. We'll just chant it for a while and do it as a practice, right? Just like when you watch your breathing, if your mind starts wandering, just bring it back to the sound, just bring it back to the vibration of the mantra. And know that, when mantras are chanted, it affects the atmosphere, not just our mind. So that's why, in India, I remember many times, like I would go to programs that Amma did in India years ago, and there'd be, so many people. There are just thousands upon thousands of people, and they would chant 5 times a day the Lalita Sahasranama, which is the 1,000 names of the Divine Mother. And chanting and hearing these chants going on all day and all night, you could just feel it affects the atmosphere. It affects the environment. So it's amazing, by chanting and doing these things, we have power. We don't realize how powerful we are in the simplest thing. Just chanting something that makes you feel happy. You're adding goodness. You're adding that positive energy into the world. Sorry for talking so much. I just, I'm fired up. I was up all night thinking about this stuff, so I'm just sharing it unfiltered. All right. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. I'm going to do it with a drum beat because, having a rhythm, it helps our attention, our mind to stay focused, right? The more our senses are engaged, the more our mindfulness, our attention will be there. So after we chant this, I may just sing a little bit of something. We'll see. So just try to let go of everything I said, and let's just all be present together and just chant this, knowing that as we do it, we're doing something beneficial. We're doing something beneficial for ourselves and for the whole. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Om Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. And you just think wherever you like to direct this mantra. You can just chant it with no intention, or you can choose to use it very specifically and send it to some place in your life, or your mind, or your heart, where you feel a knot, where you feel an obstacle, or you feel triggered. We ask that those obstacles to be cleared. So send that sound vibration into whatever it is you want to. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Sing Om together 3 times. Really absorb your mind in the sound of Om. Om Ganasaya, Om Ganasa, Om Ganasa, Om Ganasa, Ganasaya, Om Ganasa, Om Ganasa, Om Ganasa, Ganasaya. I'd like to read you a passage from one of my all-time favorite books. It's called Strength to Love by Martin Luther King Jr. I've totally, the pages are all just coming out. I've read this book so many times. So interesting here. We must recognize that the evil deed of the enemy neighbor, the thing that hurts us, never quite expresses all that he is. An element of goodness may be found even in our worst enemy. Each of us is something of a schizophrenic personality, tragically divided against ourselves. A persistent civil war rages within all of our lives. This simply means that there is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. When we look beneath the surface, beneath the impulsive evil deed, we see within our enemy neighbor a measure of goodness, and know that the viciousness and evilness of his acts are not quite representative of all that he is. We see him in a new light. We recognize that his hate grows out of fear, pride, ignorance, prejudice, and misunderstanding. But in spite of this, we know God's image is ineffably etched in his being. Then we love our enemies by realizing that they are not totally bad and that they are not beyond the reach of God's redemptive love. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. We never get rid of an enemy by meeting hate with hate. We get rid of an enemy by getting rid of enmity. By its very nature, hate destroys and tears down. By its very nature, love creates and builds up. Love transforms with redemptive power. Beautiful book. In order to love our so-called enemy, we really have to love ourselves. And a lack of self-love is an epidemic in this world that has ramifications far beyond our own relationship with our heart. And so I feel really strongly, at least for my own self, that part of my dharma is learning how to genuinely love and accept this woman, this being, with all of the parts that make me, the light and the shadow. He's saying a civil war rages inside all of us, and it's true. We have these different aspects of ourselves, and it's important to remember that, to be able to approach life with that spirit of humility, knowing that the seeds that we see in others that we dislike, those seeds also exist in us. And when we recognize that, then we can see through different eyes. These things aren't easy, but we can really begin at home with ourselves by looking to see, what parts of my own nature have I made the enemy? What parts of myself have I exiled and pushed away because I don't like it, I hate it? Our work that we really can do something about is to learn to identify those things and to call them back, to embrace them again, to allow ourselves to be whole with everything that we are, all of our identities, all of our weaknesses and frailties and our strengths and our light. All of it coexists together. And as Krishna was saying in the Bhagavad Gita, all of those things are true and real, and in truth, they're not actually who we are. We are not that. We are the imperishable light, the imperishable self, and that same self is inside each being in this world. It's so hard to see that when we witness terrible things that affect our mind and heart. But if we can go deeper below the surface, we can touch that place of equanimity, if only for a moment, and feel the power of that. So I just want to take these last 10 minutes to just do a brief meditation together, to just take all of this and, embody it and just bring some calm to our minds. Thank you for being here and listening, and just your openness. And, none of this is easy to talk about. There's a million ways to talk about this and a million ways to perceive it. And I'm sure if I did this live session tomorrow, I would say everything completely different. This is just what's coming up for me today. So let's meditate. And it might seem a little strange. I'm going to use the sound of a fire, like a campfire, as something soothing and calm for us to imagine together that we are sitting in this peaceful place together around this fire. Just use your imagination. Don't judge it. We have superpower right here of our imagination. So let's use it. If you can't see a fire, if you don't visualize easily, that's totally fine. Just be in the moment, be in the experience, and this is what came to me today. I hope you can hear the fire. Okay. Just for a moment, let's enter another world together. This world, but a different side of it. In this brief meditation, let's use our mind to generate love and safety and peace. Human beings have been gathering around fires for millennia. It's something so familiar to us. I don't know about you, but I find it very peaceful to sit by a fire at a fireplace or a wood stove or outside at a campfire to just feel the warmth. So just using the power of your imagination. Imagine that you are sitting by a fire, wherever it feels right to you. Maybe it's inside, maybe it's outside. If you're outside, use your senses and just become aware of the beauty of this night sky, the stars, and feel the air on your face. Feel the warmth of this fire. Just warming your body, warming your skin. You can see the beautiful embers just rising up into the sky. Beautiful embers of light. You feel how ancient fire is. Fire burns away what isn't needed so new life can be born. Fire helps us to cook our food, to nourish ourselves. And it warms us when it's cold. So imagine now that you're just feeling and seeing this fire and that you feel the warmth of it. Really let yourself receive the warmth of this fire. And feel it just relaxing you. Something so important is to feel safe. To have a refuge. When we seek refuge outside, we never quite feel at ease. But when we seek refuge inside, that can become an abode, an abiding place of calm, a well of water that is always there for us to drink from. So just using your imagination, feel relaxed and feel safe with this fire in this warm place. Maybe you're with other people or maybe you're by yourself. And as you watch these beautiful flames of light and the embers rising, I invite you to imagine in this visualization that you close your eyes and that you begin to see this light emerging inside you. Just feel all your cells just awakened, the beautiful light shining inside you. Imagine that you can see like a glow around yourself, a glow of light. You may think it's silly to do it, but actually your brain is responding as if it's happening when you visualize it. So why not visualize it? Feel and see this beautiful fire shining inside, these embers of light illuminating every cell of your body and the energy around your body. Imagine all of us here together like these beautiful flickering candles of light. Imagine the light within each of us joining together and expanding out into the world. Imagine our whole earth bathed in light. If you could see our earth from space, you would see that there's a golden aura, like from the golden time, the Satya Yuga, that our earth is surrounded by a golden light that begins in the hearts of each person, shining out. This is the light inside. The more that we give our attention and energy to the light inside, the more we see it reflected in the light outside. This is something each of us can do. Tending to your nervous system, finding safety, relaxing, inviting calm into your mind and to your heart, and going deeper below the surface waves to find that pool of equanimity and light in you. In this place, there are no dualities. There is no other. There is no identification with this or that. There is no Democrat or Republican, friend or enemy, good or bad. There is just this singular light, this essence of who we are. So hum. I am that. I am not this or that. I am that with a capital T. The more that we connect to that place inside of us, the more we have immense creative power, the more we have the ability to clear the veils from our eyes so we can see things as they really are. So in an affirmation of that place that so many great souls before us showed to us as an example, we'll just sing So Hum a few times to connect to that place that I am that. So hum, so hum, so hum, shiva hum, so hum, so hum, so hum, shiva hum, so hum, so hum. Soham Shivoham, Soham Soham, Soham Shivoham. I am that I am. 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 Soham, Soham, Soham Shivoham, 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 Soham, Soham, Soham Shivoham. We'll conclude with these words from Martin Luther King. I am convinced that the universe is under the control of a loving purpose, and in the struggle for righteousness, man has cosmic companionship. Behind harsh appearances of the world, there is a benign power. The past decade has been a most exciting one. In spite of the tensions and uncertainties of this period, something profoundly meaningful is taking place. Old systems of exploitation and oppression are passing away. New systems of justice and equality are being born. In a real sense, this is a great time to be alive. Therefore, I am not yet discouraged about the future. Granted that the easygoing optimism of yesterday is impossible. Granted that we face a world crisis which leaves us standing so often amid the surging murmur of life's restless sea. But every crisis has both its dangers and its opportunities. It can spell either salvation or doom. In a dark, confused world, the kingdom of God may yet reign in the hearts of men. In a dark, confused world, the kingdom of God may yet reign in the hearts of men, in the hearts of all of us. Let's end by chanting Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu 9 times, with a prayer that all of this goodness may go into the world in ways that our mind doesn't understand, asking that all beings may be peaceful and happy. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I'm just going to ring this bell for peace. Thank you. Sorry, I went over. Just thank you very much. And thank you for your donations. I really appreciate it. They help me so that I can continue doing sessions like this for free. So thank you. And I hope you receive something from this. I will share some of the writings that I've read in my circle on Insight Timer. You can find it if you want to go there. I'll post in a couple of days at some point what I read. And I will be back in December, I think December 22nd, for the winter solstice, for the water ritual. So you're welcome to join me then if you like. And one track I have on the app that I wanted to recommend is called The Holy Darkness. It's a premium track, so if you're not a subscriber, you won't be able to hear it. But it's a talk I gave during a live session once that I edited into this track you can listen to that I think is applicable to any time in our personal lives or collective lives. My own reflections on the holy darkness, so you may enjoy it. Anyway, lots of love, and thank you so much. I hope to see you soon, and go gently. Take good care of yourself. These are intense times indeed. So lots of love, you guys. Thank you. Anyone who reads the news or simply looks around can't help but feel deeply sad and concerned about the troubling issues we're facing. Natural disasters, global warming, poverty, injustice of all kinds. We witness and hear about these things constantly, so much so that at times we may even become numb to the negativity or fall prey to overwhelm and despair. But I think one of the benefits of the incredible pressure and tension that so many of us feel in these times is that it inspires us to find a deeper fulfillment. It's that inspiration and that longing that drives us to transform consciousness and awaken. Despite our different nationalities, races, ages, and orientations, our common aspirations unite us. We can join our minds and hearts to send waves of goodness into the world. That's where Loka comes into play. When we sing or listen to this mantra, we create positive vibrations in ourselves and purify the atmosphere. This is why so many saints and sages have advised people to chant this mantra during difficult times. As we enter the sound current of this mantra that's been chanted for centuries to bring harmony and peace to the world, we amplify that intention, and that has benefits far beyond what our mind can comprehend. While it may be a cliche that peace begins within, all spiritual traditions tell us this is true. When we cultivate compassion and joy, that light spills out of us and affects the world. The truth is, when we wish for the happiness of all, we receive innumerable benefits because we're not isolated islands, even though our eyes may tell us otherwise. Mystic wisdom and quantum science confirm that everything is interconnected. We're all woven together in the radiant web of life. That means our peace is everyone's peace, and everyone's peace is ours. So if you find yourself feeling helpless or overwhelmed or unsure about what to do about the suffering in the world, this is a good mantra to turn to. Just make sure that when you pray for peace, you don't forget to include yourself. Feel the energy and the intention of the prayer. May all beings everywhere be peaceful and happy. Allow yourself to feel a vibration of peace deep in your being, using the power of your imagination. Think of something that makes you happy, something that brings you peace. It may be someone that you love, or a place on the earth that you feel really content, or an experience that you had that filled you with joy. Bring this image to mind and let the beauty fill every cell of your being. And as you feel this peace, remember that your visual cortex experiences it as if it's really happening. So let that peace overflow from within you. And imagine it spreading in all directions throughout the world, like a light that permeates the mountains and the rivers and the oceans and the lakes and the streams and all the trees and the soil and the sky on all the animals and plants. And imagine this light illuminating every being on the earth. Now you can imagine a specific place on the planet where you'd like to direct this mantra. It could be a place that is suffering from war or a natural disaster, or a place that's had environmental devastation or famine, or maybe you'd like to send it to a national forest or to the coral reefs. Wherever your mind is drawn, imagine that the sound vibrations of the mantra and the love in your heart are infusing this place that is hurting, bringing peace, bringing healing, and blessing the whole creation.
To 想。